Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Unmasking with Cindy and Sarah. And we are back, just the two of us today. It's been a while since it's just been
the two of us.
We can make it if we try. Yeah, we're just
two
going to
of
sing
us.
the whole episode.
It's going to be like those ones that you hate on TV, like when Grey's Anatomy or like, one of those other ones. What is it, like Modern Family? I don't know. Any of those shows, they're like, let's do a musical episode. And you're like, no one wants this. No one wants this. We'll
No
watch
one
Glee
wants this.
if we want to watch a musical, but nobody wants it.
Real quick, this is totally off topic of what we're going to talk about today, but I took my twins to see Wicked last night.
Love.
And I don't think they realized that it was a musical. So about a quarter of the way in, they're breaking out into song. And one of the twins leans over and he's like, is this going to be like this for the whole entire movie? And I was like, you're welcome.
You're like, yes, it is. Welcome to the show. No.
If you haven't seen Wicked, I can't stress enough, you have to go. I was the high school theater choir nerd in me came out. I did not sing though, because out of respect for everybody around me, I didn't want to ruin their experience, but it was so beautiful. And it just gave me such joy to just check out for about 2 hours and 40 minutes and
love
sing.
It.
So yes.
Oh, very cool.
It.
It's so funny with the musical stuff because, everybody likes to go to shows and stuff. But honestly, Book of Mormon, I would see that over and over and over again. That is a good musical. I don't know anybody who has seen that musical. And that one keeps you entertained. Your boys would love Book of Mormon.
Surely. No. And it's, I think they're at the age now where they can handle it. I think maybe about 5 years ago, probably not, but they can do the adult content now. So
yeah, they can do it. They can
do it. But I just, it kind of, actually, you know what? This is a good segue into what we were going to talk about today, just grief and gratitude, because I don't know about you, Sarah, but for me, I've just been doing a lot of reflecting as I do. And gosh, it's been heavy. It's been a heavy 2024, heavy 2020/2024 for me. And so it just felt really good last night to just turn everything off. I left my laptop at my office and just walk out and do something ordinary.
Yeah.
The therapist and I have been talking about just ordinary. Just
with your kids. Yeah. Just going to a movie, shutting
something
off.
Not heavy.
Well, and this time of year is so heavy. I mean, it's just holidays bring up so much.
Yes.
I feel like schools have just 1,000 things going on that they need you to do, for your kids, which is great. But I don't remember us having all this stuff at school when we were young at all. I don't know. It just seems like there's just so much more now. I don't know. It's just a different time. And then you have social media, which do these things, go to this, take your child to this, make this.
No.
It's like, geez.
No, just
give it a break. Give it a break.
I could barely get the Halloween decor down before every single house but mine on my street is lit up for Christmas. And I'm thinking, what is going on here? We have rotting pumpkins on the doorstep. I haven't even gotten any Christmas decor out, let alone Thanksgiving. I don't know. Do you decorate for Thanksgiving?
No. And I should, because my ancestors came over on the Mayflower. So growing up, it was a big deal in my family. But honestly, Thanksgiving's all right. I mean, I like Christmas. I already put Christmas up. I needed the dopamine hit. I really did.
I love it.
I put it up. It makes me happy. Put it up, folks. Who cares what people think? Put up your Christmas stuff if it makes you happy. If it doesn't make you happy, skip it. Who cares? Do what makes you happy. Let people live. Let them live. Let them live.
Yeah, it's on my list this weekend. I am going to get the Christmas stuff out. I needed a minute. And I think, again, it goes back to the grief train, man. We've had some really exceptional guests on the pod over the last month and a half, kind of talking about burnout. And I think a lot of this burnout that I've been experiencing has been directly related to grief and kind of being stuck in that emotional tunnel that Amelia was talking about, not being able to make it to the end of the emotion. Yeah. Because you're just so tired. Grief really takes a toll, I think, on the body and on the mind. So I haven't gotten there yet.
Well, and I think too, Cindy, like, I know we're going to discuss more about this, but like, you lost your mom this year.
I did.
And now Christmas is coming up. And, I know people have a lot of different feelings about the holidays.
Yeah.
But I think that's a real triggering time for people. And
Yes.
especially the first Christmas without your mom.
Yes.
It's just hard. And you still have to be the mom yourself and you don't have your mom. So that's a
Yeah.
really tough one. And I think a lot of people feel that. I tear up thinking about it, but it's like, almost like the magic is gone when your own parents are gone for you. It's like your
Yes.
childhood is really gone because your parent, honestly, at the end of the day, if you're lucky, and I'm talking about dads too, but really, I just want to shout out to moms. Like, they're the ones, because they're just the ones, they make it special a lot of times. Dads do too, I'm sure. But like, who else is giving you a stocking? You know what I mean? Like, who's going to do those? Who really knows those little things or gives you the little, and I know we talked before we were filming this, so you're okay with like sharing all of this. But I think that is really heavy. And then still having to be the mom to your boys and mourning your own mom.
Yeah.
And all the things that have come along this year for you too. It's just been really, really heavy. And that's hard. So, of course, like, now we're broaching Christmas and it's a lot. It's a lot. How are you feeling with all this?
You were sitting there talking about that just a second ago, and I felt this like emotion start coming up in my throat. I might have a little moment, and that's okay because I've been kind of going between these states of dissociation and then this deep griefy feeling. My friend and I are calling it grief whiplash these days. She lost her husband back in February unexpectedly, and I feel like that is what started the chain of events with me. So to watch her become a widow at 45 was devastating for me and for her, just helping her put her life in some kind of order. And then my grandfather had a stroke in February, and my mom started getting sick in March. And I was in India on my yoga retreat, and my sister was texting me, mom's in the hospital, while my grandfather was also in the hospital at the same time. And I was like, golly, like, what is going on? And came back from India, and I never stopped. Things never stopped. I won't go into great detail, but my mom had an obstructed bowel. She had a surgery. It failed. And then they did a second surgery. And so within a matter of weeks, we were signing paperwork for hospice. We were transitioning my grandfather out of my childhood home and into an assisted living facility. We were saying goodbye to so many things at once. And then my son's graduating and getting ready for college, and, husband acquired a business. And I just, I don't know, Sarah, my nervous system feels a little fried. I made some, changes to just kind of step back and take a breath. And I recognized I could not keep going at the pace that I was going at. Otherwise I was going to get sick myself. So,
yeah. And I mean, it has been a heavy, heavy year. And I remember when you were in India and you came back and we were talking, and like you said, it was just weeks. And I remember you calling me because it was, I think, early April.
Yeah.
Was it early April?
Yeah. My mom passed on April 4th.
Yeah. And you called me and you had been, and I say this because you were with her. Like, and that's a hard, when you sit with a person and watch them like go off, to the other side. It wasn't like your mom was just like sick for years. It was so sudden. You came home, Cindy, and like, I swear you were like in Houston and that happened. I mean, it's just a lot. So also when you say like you were dealing with all that, your son was finishing his senior year and you were kind of back and forth and all this. And then also like being in a helping profession is a whole lot as well. It's a lot. And so I think right now it's just coming to a head. Holidays, I think, always do that. It's bittersweet. Like, your son's coming home today. I know you're so excited. And maybe that's why you haven't decorated, because he's not there and he's been like your helper. And that could be it.
Good point. Good point.
Maybe that's just you're waiting for him. And maybe, because is he the one who usually helps with the tree?
Well, he gives me lots of opinions about the tree.
He supervises the tree. He supervises it.
He's the consultant. But to go back to this process of like caring for aging parents, sick parents, the unexpected diagnosis or illness or whatever happens. You know, Sarah, I think I've shared this with you before. I've always been petrified of witnessing the death and dying process. It is something that I have purposely stayed very distant from. You know, as I've shared before on here, my mom and I had a really non-traditional relationship because I was not raised by her for the majority of my life. 0 to 4, I was with her for the most part. But because of her struggles with mental illness, she couldn't be there for us in the way that we needed it as children. And so I always had this like really distant relationship with her. It helped me a lot to think of her as maybe like a cousin or a family member that was maybe a little bit more removed, because it was just too painful for me growing up to lose that connection with a mother. So I think I had to kind of preserve those emotions, if that makes sense. And so when she was passing, I really surprised myself in my ability to stay in my body for the most part, sitting with her. And there would be moments where I would dissociate and I would kind of like be like, okay, like my sister and I were in the hospice facility with her for a few days. And when it got heavy, we would just look at each other and be like, we got to go, we got to go get some lunch, or we got to go like run an errand, just to keep some sense of normalcy inside of us. Because again, we were, you know, just trying so hard. We're the only two in our family that are the caregivers that are making these tough decisions. But when she passed, you know, it was a beautiful and hard time, because I could tell she was done. I could tell she was done. And I sat with her, and she was non-responsive at that point. And the hospice nurses, God bless them, God bless people that work in transitional care, came in and said, you know, their hearing is the last sense to go. And so is there anything that you need to say or anything? Because she can still hear you. And I had the Elton John song, the Your Song. It's called Your Song. And I played it, and I sat there with her, and I just sang to her, and she had like tears like streaming down her face. And so I know she heard me, and I just thanked her, and I just told her how sorry I was, you know, that she didn't get to live the life that she had wanted to live, but that she had taught me so much about being honest and courageous. And she's the reason why I'm in this profession. I really do feel that. And so that was a painful moment and a beautiful moment at the same time. And then I have to share one more little funny stuff. The chaplain came in to pray with us, and my sister and I were holding hands with the chaplain. And, you know, she launches into this prayer, and she says, my mom's name was Carrie. And she says, dear God, please just walk Catherine to the end, and just be there with Catherine with open arms. And my sister, it was like out of a movie. And my sister and I looked at each other, and I felt like I was 10 years old in church, like making fun of something or someone, you know, like when you get the giggles in church, and like my grandmother would reach over and like pinch my shoulder, you know, like knock it off.
Yeah.
I got the giggles, like I couldn't stop. And it was just this like emotion, like, and I kept thinking, this is so inappropriate. Like, your mom is dying and you're laughing. And when the chaplain left the room, my sister and I just busted out laughing. And I just looked at my mom, and I was like, sorry, like,
Catherine. No.
Sorry, Catherine.
Jeez.
Right? And I think like in a weird way that was just like, it was this relief that we all needed. You know, the heaviness in the room was so palpable. You could have like cut it with a knife, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing else for you to do but laugh at the absurdity of the moment.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody prepares you for this stuff. Nobody tells you what you're going to feel, how you're going to experience the end of life. And so, yeah.
No, and thank you for sharing that, Cindy. That was just, you know, a beautiful testament to the tragedy that is death, because it's so hard for the ones that have to go on living, but also the healing that you had in that last moment, I feel like, with your mother and letting her know like she wasn't alone, like you were there with her. And I think it's also in a way, like with the way that your story and how you grew up, in a way you almost had to parent your mom.
I did.
In a lot of ways. And so I think that it was also, just a different kind of relationship and dynamic. And so it was losing someone that you have really cared for your whole adult life. You and your sister have really had to take care of your mom, and then you had to go and share that with her dad, like with your grandfather, and that telling someone that they lost their child and he had already lost another child. And like, that's just a lot of heavy stuff that as children, you don't expect that you have to handle, like no one, like you said, no one prepares you for that. And it's so heavy and intense, and you still have to go on. We all still have to go on. And that's the hard part, is we have to continue our day to day and live. And that can be very difficult.
Yeah. I think also too, for people like you and I, we're not, and I'm going to say this with all the love, right? We're still learning, you and I, how to listen to our bodies and how to really readjust expectations. I think that's one of the hardest things for me, because again, I'm raised in this family that's like, we don't stop. Like when my grandfather lost his other daughter at 19 years old in a tragic accident, he was back at work like 2 weeks later. I mean, this was 1977, right? But like, I look back at the photos because, again, I'm kind of the family historian. So I've been kind of chronicling some things after my mom's loss, because we had homes to clean out and photos to archive. And I found a photo of my grandfather like 2 weeks after my aunt, his daughter, passed. And he's got this smile on his face, but his eyes are so sad. And I was asking him about that, the other day. And, what was that like for you to go back to work? I mean, he's 99, still kicking it. And he was like, that's just what you did, Cindy. What was I going to do? And while I respect that, I also don't want to do my life like that. Like I want to pause when I need to pause and not feel guilty, and like rest. And rest has always been hard for me. So I don't know. What about you, Sarah, with griefy times, with heavy times? How do you care for yourself? How do you recognize it?
Well, when Olivia was 3 weeks old, my aunt, who I was very close with, passed away.
I remember.
And she had a stroke, but she'd had a stroke 10 years before. So we were, it was still quite a shock. It was the day after Christmas. So it was the first Christmas I didn't come home, and my mom was up here. Olivia was 3 weeks old, and I was in the throes of postpartum. And so my aunt passed, and I was very close. I only have one cousin on my mom's side, and then Travis and I. And so growing up, he was, a brother to me. He's Olivia's godfather. He called me, and I had to rush home with Olivia. My mom had to rush home, and everybody heard my mom's story last week. My aunt, that was, I think, a harder death for my mom than her own mother, because she just was with my aunt more growing up. That was really more like a mother figure to her. And so even though their relationship at times could be very, contentious, they shared a lot. And I had to give part of the eulogy. So I had this 3-week-old infant. I was going through postpartum. If you've had children, just a warning, you're not.
It ain't for the weary.
You're in diapers. Things are not normal down there still at 3 weeks. I don't know. Everybody's different. For me,
Yeah.
it was like I'd been to war down there. Okay. Like we had not recovered.
Right.
And I'm up there giving a eulogy. I have this little baby. Like that was really, really rough. And then to see my mom, and no sleep. I had to write a eulogy. I wrote it in the car on the way to the funeral. And I really didn't get to mourn my aunt. But it's interesting because Olivia never met my aunt, but some of the first pictures I sent them to her. And when we got to her house, she had Olivia's little pictures on her little Christmas tree. So she was the first person to get little pictures of Olivia. But it's very interesting. She talks about my aunt like they know each other.
Oh, wow.
And it's almost healing for me in a lot of
Mm.
ways because I miss my aunt. Like my aunt and grandmother were very different with me than they were with my mom. And I
Yeah.
was very, very close to them. But it's always hard during the holidays, because I always remember like, my aunt just died like the day after Christmas. So it's always like,
Yeah.
it's Christmas, but then I think about my aunt not being here, and she loved Christmas. And my family Christmas is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the one time like everybody just like came together. We're gift givers, and if anyone knows me, I love some gifts, love to give gifts, love to buy stuff. Like
Yes,
it's my
you
thing.
are. You're a good
It's a
gift
love.
giver.
I love, love, love. I could shop all day. Like it's my family. We are good at that. We love the dopamine rush of buying some stuff you do not need. Like it's that ADHD comes out, and if it's Olivia says she wants American Girl, we're buying the whole store. We're buying a lot. We're buying a lot. Christmas was just such a magical time. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just different. Like when I lost my grandmother, we went away that first year because my mom just was like, I can't do Christmas this year at my mom,
Sure.
my mother's not here. It's just it's never been quite the same. And now losing my aunt, my mom is really the only, like we say, she's the matriarch of the family because, basically my mom's whole side of the family, it's just my mom. Like it was such a small group.
Yeah.
And it's just, holidays just bring up a lot. I miss my aunt. I guess I'm just rambling here, but like to go back, like I was in the throes of, a newborn postpartum, that it hits me sometimes because I was saying Olivia's like talks about my aunt. She watched the movie Coco, and she takes my aunt's picture, and we have other pictures, but my aunt Linda specifically, and she puts little tea lights and food in front of her picture and just leaves if there's not one, she'll go and get like a little granola bar or something, paying tribute to my aunt. And she just got this little, like at the toy store, because we collect stuffed animals. I swear to God, we could have one of those crane machine things at my house. And she named it Blackjack. Well, my aunt's dog's name was Blackjack. And it's like, it's so weird. It's just so bizarre. But sometimes I think, they're like little angels that maybe my aunt's like her little angel that comes through her and watches out for her. And I find comfort in that. I look for signs. Like people don't know this. Cindy and I, we saw a medium when we did this thing, and it was, guys, I'm telling you, I mean, y'all can think what you want. There's like this woman, like we will have to have an episode on this. This woman knew stuff that like there is no way she could she could have never found this information out. Like there was no way. And she knew, and everything she said was completely accurate. But she told us to look for certain signs. I see those signs all the time. And in Olivia's pictures, she always has like a little, I don't even know, like it's like a glare or something, like there's almost like something around her, like a halo. Wow. And I always wonder, like, what that could mean. But she's connected to butterflies. It's very, very crazy. They come to her all the time. She kisses them. Yeah. I don't know. She's very connected to the earth, but butterflies specifically are just special. So I try to look for those things. And every time like she kisses a butterfly, I'm always like, hi, Aunt Linda, or hi, Mimi. Like I think they're there with me, but that's kind of how I get through it. But holidays are definitely like bittersweet because I love to see it through my child, but I also miss what it was for me as a child too. I mourn how it was when like my whole family was there and we were happy.
Yes.
And so that's hard.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared all of that, Sarah, because yes, you and I have definitely been in conversation so much over this past year and a half about this specific topic. And I mean, probably more than in a year and a half, but I think what it is for me is straddling the tension between feeling deep grief about the losses that we've had this year, but then also having these moments where I can be in such deep gratitude too. And it's very confusing for my brain. And I understand the science behind it, right? Our brains really like black and white. Our brains like, you're either here or you're not, give me certainty for God's sakes. And when I don't have the certainty, it's very hard for me sometimes to be able to reconcile it. And I guess through all of this, I've just decided that this is something I'm never going to be able to reconcile. the confusing feeling that I have when I'm in deep grief, but then something comes along and I find myself laughing or just like something that takes my breath away.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, because I didn't know how I was going to feel after I lost my mom. I thought because of all of her struggles and the impact that it had on our family growing up, I thought I would feel relief. And while I do feel relief that she doesn't have to continue to live a difficult life, I feel things that I never anticipated that I would feel. And so I guess what I'm saying is this holiday season for me specifically, I think the focus is on keeping presence alive as much as possible. And it's been really kind of goofy and funny how I've done this. And my therapist has been phenomenal at like helping me have these touchstones in these really quirky ways. And when my mom passed, all of my grandparents' friends were like, are you going to do a memorial? Are you going to do a service? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? And I was annoyed, to be honest. So sorry, listeners, if you were one of those that asked me about it. But my sister and I kept feeling annoyed. And we were like, we don't want the extra responsibility of now having to do something that doesn't feel authentic, that doesn't feel like her, like what she would have
wouldn't
wanted.
have liked that. Yeah.
I don't think she would have liked that at all. And so, and dang it, we forgot to wear the wigs. We're going to have to do
We're going to do it. We're going to wear the wigs, the Carrie wigs.
Y'all, for our listeners, my mom had this thing with her hair that she was always wanting, like fuller, thicker hair. And so she'd go to the beauty shop. That's what she called it. She'd go to the beauty shop. Like we're in 1950. And
my mom calls it that still too. She's like,
isn't that funny?
The beauty parlor.
I'm going to the beauty parlor to see Mary about my hair. But she could go to the beauty shop about once every 2 weeks and drop crazy amounts of money, probably money that she did not have, on her hair. And then she would always come back and she'd be like, this lady messed my hair up. So then she'd go get a wig. And so when she passed, I was cleaning out her home. And she had told me, but right before she went into hospice, she said, now you're going to find a lot of wigs and a lot of expensive eyeglasses. And I was like, okay. So I'm cleaning out her house. No lie. This woman had 60, I think the final count was like 62 wigs.
You sent me a video. It was not ending. It was
and
like
they were all the same style. It was
they really
like,
are.
Okay, to be fair, there were some ones with pizzazz, I guess, when she was wanting to go out and like her party wigs and her, she definitely had her
going out.
Her going out wigs versus the conservative wigs, the ones that she'd wear to vote and go to church and all that. Notice my accent because that's how she sounded. But it's just also another funny thing because I don't know where that came from. But so I had all these wigs and I was like, I couldn't just throw them away because it was the talk of Thanksgiving. I mean, we would always get together and my mom would have this like ridiculous looking wig on and she'd come up to us and she'd be like, can you tell this is a wig? And we're like, no, not at all. So my therapist was like, you have to do something with this. Like, you have to find a way to incorporate this into like memorializing her, and so I brought these wigs. Y'all have been on an adventure. They've been to Puerto Rico. They've been to California. Like they've been all over. And my bestest friends in the whole world, have helped me kind of turn this into like a hilarious thing where we're like, go get the wigs, go get the Carrie wigs.
The Carrie wigs.
We'll have to post this with our podcast episode maybe to help our listeners make sense of this. But I donated like 57 of them to like a women's shelter, and I kept like my
I love
my
how
top.
It's like 57 of them. It's not like 50. It's like no 57 of them. I kept the other.
I kept my top choices, like the ones that everyone always wanted. I kept like 6 of them, or I don't know, something like that. I guess my point in this really long story is just that when grief feels so guttural and awful, I have to find these things that just make me feel so grateful for just her. Yeah. That was her. That was her presence. I mean, she was goofy. She was fun. She had a really tough go, and she made the best of it that she could. And
She made two beautiful girls. One of
uh,
my favorite people. So I can't thank her enough for that.
Yeah. Gosh, today's just one of those days, y'all. Like, I don't know. I can
It's
talk
just
about
one
it.
of those days that a girl goes through. Little Monica, guys, taking it
Was
back.
that little Monica?
That was Monica, yes.
Oh, I didn't even know that you knew the title to that. I couldn't.
No, it's Monica. It was I think it's called like one of them days.
It's one of them days
that a
girl
goes through.
My
Feeling
gosh.
inside.
I
Wanting to
love
get
it.
out on. Yeah, sorry, guys.
Who knows what Sarah will choose for this post, what her music will be.
Gosh, maybe I'll choose Monica. Well, I think that's great. You want to know why? Because that's how you get through it. That's the fun part. That's the parts you want to remember about the people that you miss. And like, I remember in my aunt's eulogy, because I went on trips to Mexico with her every year after Christmas. I would go stay with her Christmas night, and then Christmas, the day after Christmas, we would go hit up the mall and we would like shop, and then we'd have our lunch. Because I was the only girl, so I mean, it was pretty fun for me.
Yeah.
I spent summers with her. I mean, we just had a good time. My aunt was if you knew my Aunt Linda, that was a woman who she had a good time. She was fun. She was a fun time. And in her eulogy, I remember talking about how to have an Aunt Linda day, because Aunt Linda days are always fun. Every day for my aunt, I'm telling you, was like that woman, fun day. Buy the expensive outfit, like go where you want to go. I remember when we were this is going to sound really annoying, guys, but when I was in Paris, I had an Aunt Linda day, Josh and I was like, we're going to the Baccarat Museum. We're going to go to the Champs-Élysées. I'm going to buy myself a Louis Vuitton.
Girl.
I'm going to have, all that. And I had my Aunt Linda day. And I said that in her eulogy. I'm like, have an Aunt Linda day when life is hard. Just drop it all and have an Aunt Linda day. And so everybody, if you're struggling, have an Aunt Linda day.
Yes.
Have a Carrie Wig day. Have a day. No, I'm serious. Like, do something to honor like the fun part of somebody that you miss, or like, because that's how you get through those times. You still are in pain. I don't think you ever heal from losing someone.
No.
You never fully heal. And there's never a time frame for grief, right? I think some people expect there to be, but I don't think there ever is a time frame.
Yes.
These people are so important and they mean so much to you, and it changes over time.
Yeah.
But the love and the loss that is there still remains. And so that's why I say, like, during the holidays, like, do something that they would have loved, like bake something that they would have baked, or do something that they would have loved to have done themselves. Whenever I have my little clients come in, and I've had a couple that have really had a lot of loss in their life, and it's been really hard. That's one of the things is like, well, what would that person do? Like, what is something special that they did when they were here? Go do it. What is something they always wanted to do and they didn't do? I remember you and I having that conversation, and I said, you know what, Cindy, because I remember your mom, there were so many things she wanted to do that she couldn't do. And I said, you go do them for her. Go do those things, Cindy. And you were like, you know what, I'm going to do all the things that my mom was terrified to do. Yes. And you do. You go to India, you go and you do those fun things, and you experience the world. And I think that is honoring her too, is honoring her, because she would want you as her daughter to do those things. She would want you to live your life, and she would want you to be happy and to heal and all of those things. But it's still just hard. So I love that you brought in some, because sometimes you need the humor in it.
You do. You really do. And to take it back to something that I'd shared about my childhood friend losing her husband unexpectedly. She's been a person that I hope she doesn't mind that I'm talking about her on this episode.
We're going to say her name and social security number before where she lives before. No, I'm just kidding.
She's been, if I think about gratitude that comes out of a really crappy situation. I'm not a big fan of toxic positivity. I'm not a big fan of the phrase everything happens for a reason.
I hate that.
I don't love it. I don't love it.
At least.
Nope. You can take your at least and turn right back around and leave, please. Like, I can't, and I understand it's people's way of trying to comfort the other person, but it just feels, it ends up making the other person feel that much more lonely.
It minimizes their feelings.
Yes. Yes. And so one of the things that she and I have talked about a lot this year is just that, like, there are no rules anymore. Like, everything matters and then nothing matters,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so we spent Halloween together, and I said, you know, this is the first year that I will be turning off my lights. And I turned off the lights, and I drove over to her house, and we just sat on her back porch in my mom's wigs with our little witch hats, and we just played fun music and just talked about how weird things were. And it's beautiful to be able to be there for one another in that way. And obviously, her losing a spouse and me losing my mom are two completely different things, but we're speaking a common language. And I think when you can be vulnerable with people and say, hey, you know, like, here's my stuff, I know you've got stuff, like, there are no expectations, basically, is what I'm trying to say. We don't really do expectations, especially around this time of year. So
well, yeah, and you and I even talked because I stopped doing Christmas cards a few years ago because I was
no, I'm not doing it anymore either.
I was so burnt out, and I was like, you know what?
Nope.
If you're in my life, you know what my family looks like. If not, happy holidays and Merry Christmas, friends. I love you guys, but honestly, I don't have time. I love all of you, you know, but my picture's going to end up in your trash anyway. Like, let's be real. Okay. And who's saving, you know?
The really crafty people are saving it, Sarah, and they're making little things out of it every year.
Well, I'm happy for the people who want to send the Christmas card. I enjoy getting your Christmas card.
I love it.
But for me, it's not it to actually sit and do the Christmas card. It's stressful.
Yes.
Because I already have so much. I'm already buying everybody's presents. I have a daughter whose birthday is right in December. I got to handle that. Now we have the schools now have something every day. I just saw a thing this morning, and some guy was making fun of like the school stuff. And he's like, if the day ends in a Y, you know, we have early release. You need to wear a blue shirt on this day and a purple shirt on that day. We also need $10,000 raised by the end of Friday. And that class who wins gets, you know, a popcorn party. It's like, guys, can we have a moment?
Stop.
Holiday, all of it. You know, it's just a lot.
Yes.
And then on top of it, I just feel like as women, we carry the weight too, because let's be real, our husbands only have to buy for us. They don't have to, you know, I see those funny memes. I mean, that, you know, that where the dad's sitting there and he's seeing what your kids are getting on Christmas morning as well. But I'm just saying, if it doesn't bring you joy, guys, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. You know, Cindy and I do Elf on a Shelf. We've got Elf on a Shelf, but guess what I found? Snoop on a Stoop is coming this year.
Mine's in the middle.
Girl, mine is too. Guys, Snoop on a Stoop is having some fun with Olivia's elf this year.
I can't
because my 90s self is coming out. Snoop's going to have a tea party with Sweetie Belle. They're going to be best friends. But that makes me happy. Okay, that makes me happy. Snoop Dogg, Snoop on a Stoop. This is not, trust me, Snoop's not listening to this, but I'm saying
no,
this is not an ad. We just love Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to know who's living their life unapologetically? Snoop.
He is.
And Martha Stewart.
You know, there's a Martha Stewart one I just saw, and I might have to get it.
Stop.
I'm not kidding. I'm like, I'm going to have all these little elf figures
year round. Actually, my Snoop might not go back in the Christmas box. He might just stay up year round, and I might get some bunny ears for him for Easter.
I mean, I would.
Some 4th of July gear in the summer, and he might just become our mascot in this house because, like, nothing.
Why not?
Again, nothing matters anymore.
We also touch the elf in my house. Sorry, friends. Listen, telling my daughter not to touch the elf. Come on. I can't. Like, we touch the elf. Okay. The elf is touched in my home. We don't have it in a little container that comes around. No, we don't do that. You can touch the elf. It's going to be all right.
I love it so much. And I wish, God, Sarah, I'm reliving my life through you as a parent, because I remember when Ethan touched the elf in 3rd grade and I flipped out. My God. I was like, Santa's not going to bring you da 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 da. And I look back on that and I'm like, okay, we're going to have a little repair moment this year. You know, like, who cares? Let your kid touch the elf.
And don't even do the elf if you don't want to. It's a lot of work. I don't do Christmas cards. Don't do the elf. Do what makes look, folks, do what makes you happy.
Do what makes you happy.
Do what makes you happy.
I love it. So Gosh, we could talk all day about this fun stuff, but I want to give our listeners just a little taste of what's coming up. And we have 2 more guests in the year. We have 2 more guests. They are grief experts. They work with they're both therapists and they work with clients.
Real light subjects coming up, guys.
Yeah, right. They're gonna talk with us about grief, about their experiences with grief, about how they work with grief, how they don't run from it, but they embrace it, and they talk about gratitude with grief and all the things. And we're gonna keep it as light as possible, okay? Mm-hmm. And then Sarah and I are gonna end the year with just a little holiday episode, just the 2 of us, and we've got
we'll bring Snoop. Maybe Snoop on a stoop will come.
Oh my God, he has to come. We'll end with just a light note. We have some really exciting changes with our podcast coming up for the new year.
Yeah.
This has just been so fun and so life-giving, and we are going to continue with it. And Sarah, I hope you don't mind if you let me read a little bit before we sign off for the day.
No, I don't. Sometimes I'm like, these people are going to be like, is she stupid? Or your sarcasm is so advanced that people are like, what? What's wrong with her? No, of course. I would love for you to read something.
So this comes from the book called Keep Moving by Maggie Smith, and it's notes on loss, creativity, and change. And we'll link it for our listeners as well.
Wait, is this Maggie Smith who we love from Harry Potter?
I don't think so.
Well, shout out to this Maggie Smith and the one from and the dame. She's a dame, right?
She's a dame.
I love Maggie Smith. Okay.
Yeah, no, but this one, no, she's just an author. She's just cool. A phenomenal author. She writes poems, and so this book is filled with poems, and she wrote it. I think she had just gotten divorced, and so she was really trying to focus on like, how can I turn something horrible into something that will help me keep moving, hence the title, Keep Moving. And so I'm just going to read a little excerpt. She says, to revise means literally to look again, to re-envision. Re-envision has always been my favorite part of writing. I know some writers love the rush of the new idea, the getting it down, the honeymoon period with a story or a poem when it's still sparkling. But for me, the problem solving is what I love most. The challenge posed by the not right words in the not right order. When I revise a piece of writing, I tend to whittle rather than expand as I go. The more time I spend with it, the smaller it gets, shrinking and shrinking as I try to be as concise as possible. I joke that I could revise a poem to nothing, poof, if I'm not careful. What I'm doing is boiling the observation, the articulation down, not being reductive, but reducing it to its most concentrated form. The final version will likely be small, but it will be potent. As I work, I number the drafts 1, 2, 3. And if I get to 15, 16, 17, I know something's gone awry. Sometimes I put the draft aside for a day, a week, a month, or more, and I trust that future me will know better how to deal with it. Future me will look at the poem and something will click that didn't click before. Future me will see the poem anew, see the section that isn't working, or see the potential in the piece that was not previously visible. One thing I've learned about revision is that sometimes I need to go back in order to move forward. Sometimes I need to return to those earlier versions, 1, 2, 3, to find the spark that drove me to the page in the first place. What can I excavate from those early versions? What necessary fire can I restore to its present iteration? I believe in the importance of revision, but here's something I believe just as strongly. If you're not careful, you can revise the life right out of a piece of writing. If you're not careful, you can scrub all the weirdness and wildness right out of it. As counterintuitive as it sounds, you can polish it dull. The same applies to our lives. If we're not careful, we can revise the life right out of them. We can polish our lives dull. And I love that.
I love it too.
I just thought that was like so helpful in thinking about going backwards to go forward, and make sure that you don't revise things out of your life that will just leave it dull, but keep some of the weirdness in, you know, wear the wigs, have the Snoop, have the Linda day.
All of it. Yeah. And I think too, it's also okay to tell yourself, especially when you're in the throes of grief, just take it today as today. Tomorrow's a new day, and just get through that day if that's all you can do.
Right step.
Because sometimes it's hard to look way too much in the future, and it's really painful to look in the past. So sometimes you just need that day, the day that's there. And then that's how you the more you step forward and keep moving, the more you can get strength to keep going. So
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yes.
Beautiful, y'all. Thanks for listening to us
Yeah.
today.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes. I'm not a turkey fan, but
I'm not either.
Why do we
But
do
I am a
turkey?
pie fan, and I love some pecan pie.
I love pecan pie.
Me too.
God, if I could just, you know what? Eat the dessert first this year.
Yeah. Who even says you need to eat Thanksgiving food? The Pilgrims didn't even have that food, guys, at the Mayflower. They had like lobster and stuff. No, I'm serious. Like, you think somebody was really making some stuffing? You know, who was really? They just got off a ship. Nobody's making, they were by the water. I don't know.
Sarah,
I know. It's me. Love you guys. Wear the wigs.
Yes. Thanks for listening, you guys. Wear the wigs, eat the pie first.
Happy
Don't eat turkey at all.
Thanksgiving. Yeah,
Happy
we'll be back
Thanksgiving,
next week, but we appreciate y'all.
Yes. Follow us on Insta, Unmasked Therapist. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.